It is 6 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting of the mayor and board to order. And we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ramsey Piper and Sarah Ballou. If you two young ladies would come up front. And y'all would stand with us for the pledge. Are y'all ready? Okay, we're going to face the flag and y'all are going to start. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to give both of y'all one of these. This is a little pin you can put on your shirt. It's just like the city pin that we wear. Thank y'all for doing this for us. Good job. Good job. Y'all can go back to your seats after you get your pictures taken. Alderman Piper, would you lead us in invocation, please?
Yes, sir. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening and we ask for your guidance as we make decisions to shape the future of Hernando. And we ask that you with us this evening. We thank you for the beautiful day you created for us today. We just ask that you would be with the men and women fighting for our freedom here and across this world.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? And I think we're going to ask to delete item 22 in that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda minus item 22.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. That motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve the docket of claims?
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. That motion passes. Item 6 is to approve the minutes from the regular mayor and board of aldermen meeting on February 6th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. That motion passes. Item 7 is the consent agenda. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. That motion passes. Item 8 is the personnel docket. Is there a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. That
No.
motion passes. Item 9 is the donations docket. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is an approval of a proclamation honoring the recently deceased James Frank, or as we knew him, Jim Anderson. And he was pretty important in our community and a good friend to many of us. And if y'all will indulge me, I'm going to read this proclamation very quickly. Whereas Mr. James Frank Jim Anderson was born on May 22nd, 1941 in Aberdeen, Mississippi, to Robert A. Anderson and Elizabeth Black Anderson. And whereas Mr. Anderson graduated from Macon High School and received a bachelor's degree in mathematics from Mississippi State University, a master's degree in library science from Louisiana State University, and a master of business administration from Arkansas State University. And whereas while in Louisiana and Arkansas, Mr. Anderson served in the National Guard. And whereas in 1972, Mr. Anderson accepted the position as the director of the First Regional Library, having held that position until 2005. During his tenure, he won several library awards and was active in local, state, and national library organizations. After retirement, he continued to be an avid library user. And whereas Mr. Anderson contributed much to the Hernando community over the years as a member of the Hernando United Methodist Church, singing in the choir and teaching classes to youth and adults, as well as being involved in youth sports, the Rotary Club, PTA president, and tutoring adults in reading. And whereas in 1986, Mr. Anderson was in the supporting cast of the Hernando sesquicentennial production of The Robber Bridegroom, which led him to becoming an active member of Kudzu Playhouse, serving on the board of directors as president, actor, and director. He also helped with theater productions between 1994 and 2000 that were joint productions of Horn Lake High School and Hernando High School. And whereas a lifelong stutterer, Mr. Anderson was a champion of the University of Memphis Speech Department, where he met for 30 years with a stutterers group. And whereas in the 1990s, Mr. Anderson took a class at Northwest Community College from Potter Lane tutor and started a hobby that lasted until Parkinson's disease took control of his hands. And whereas Mr. Anderson died on February 4th, 2024 in South Haven, Mississippi, survived by his wife of 44 years, Meg, his 2 daughters and stepson, as well as a granddaughter and 2 great-grandchildren. And whereas the city of Hernando and its citizens wish to honor Jim Anderson for his love of Hernando and his distinguished service and unwavering commitment to Hernando and the surrounding community. Now, therefore, I, Chip Johnson, and the Mayor and Board of Aldermen do hereby wish to honor with gratitude the life and service of Jim Anderson to the citizens of Hernando. Dated this 20th day of February 2024. Ms. Meg, could you come up and receive this? And as some of you may not know it, but we probably wouldn't have a library system if it weren't for Jim Anderson. That's not a stretch. He was the man. Thank you so much, Meg. And we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve that proclamation?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and that motion passes. Item 11 is a really great thing that's happened. This is the recognition of the Hernando Middle School cheer team for winning the national championship for their game day routine and second place in the nation for their traditional routine. Could all of y'all stand? Woo. We know it was a big deal for y'all to win this just for yourselves, but just know that the entire city of Hernando was cheering for you. May not have been as good as y'all are at cheering, but we are very pleased, and we're very pleased with the way you represent us when you're at your competitions. You bring honor to our city, and we're very proud to have y'all, and thank y'all for what you do. And y'all are welcome to stay for this boring meeting, or you can go home, whichever you wish to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Congratulations.
Great job, y'all.
None of y'all are going to stay? Chief. Started a couple of meetings ago where the department heads give an annual update on what's happened in their department over the past year, and today is the Chief of Police representing the Hernando Police Department.
Well, good evening. 2023 was a busy year for us, not only with crimes and accident reports, but it was a busy year for us in the community. And, you know, a lot of people might not don't know this, but we take a very active role in our community. And that's something that we pride ourselves on, is being a part of the community. And some things that we've done this year was the Young at Heart function. We actually cooked the meal for the Young at Heart. We also did a program for them to work on scams and what to look for. Every chance we get to go to Wesley Meadows and spend time with them, we go. Wonderful group of people that we enjoy talking to. We also had our National Night Out where, again, we cook for the community. Moon bounces so the citizens can come and get to know the officers. The officers can get to know the community. We also participated in the Shop with a Cop, which this event is probably the funnest event that any officer participates in. And for people who don't know, a majority of the money that is raised for that event, the officers raise that money themselves. They use that money for No Shave November, which we extended a little longer than November, which at the end of February, all our officers will be clean shaven, so that'll be back to normal. But this event has changed a lot of officers' thoughts and lives just by giving to some people that are not as fortunate as us. And when I say it's probably the funnest, it is. I mean, the smiles on the officers' faces, the smiles on the kids' faces is something that you won't forget. We also participate in the city events. We have officers that participate in Dickens of Christmas. Officer Ratliff there, he is the officer every year. We also have another officer that I won't name because there's a lot of small children that might be watching this, but he is the main man when it comes to Christmas time. He volunteers his time to do it. He does it with Shop with a Cop. He does it for Dickens. So, you know, we like to be in the community as much as we can. This year we added an extra school resource officer to protect our schools. And I believe next year we're going to add another one. Our SROs do a fabulous job in our schools. You know, they take security and they take building rapport with the kids. I mean, it's unbelievable the job that they do. And every chance we get to go to a school for some function, I mean, we have all types of officers. The one on the right here is the Build-A-Bear program at the elementary school. And I don't know how many Build-A-Bears that we built, but we're experts now. Something that we did this year, we purchased another drone. So we have 2 drones now that can help search, rescue operations. Suspects that run from us, we can deploy the drone and cover a lot of area. We have 4 officers that are licensed through the FAA to drive those drones. We also purchased accident reconstruction equipment. What that does is really technical, but it can draw out a accident scene in a matter of minutes, whereas when the officer does it, he has to do the measurements and everything, and it cuts out a lot of time. We also purchased a live scan fingerprint machine, one to stay up to code with the state law on that, but another one, when people lie to us or their identity, once we run them through the live scan, it'll tell us who they really are, so we can maybe catch more guys that are trying to lie to us. So here's the numbers. From January the 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, we answered 16,433 calls. In that same time span in 2023, we answered 23,067. So an increase of 40% of calls. And that's all types of calls. Same time span in 2022, 800 accidents. 2023, 853. Auto burglaries, they stayed the same, didn't change, and that's good. Disturbances went up 7%. Arrests went up 22%. DUI arrests went up 4%. And these last two they go hand in hand. 2022, we made 7,067 traffic stops. 2023, we made 13,229. 87% increase in our traffic stops. Arrests went up 25%. And, people wonder, why do you come to Hernando? Every time I come through here, I see police cars and traffic stops. Well, that's what we want. Okay? Next year, I want that to be 26,000 traffic stops. So don't be surprised if that's what you get. Our special investigative division, drugs, went up 21%, and our criminal cases went up 17%. And a lot of that has to do with those 13,000 traffic stops that we made. Y'all have any questions?
Any questions? We appreciate all you and your officers do to keep us safe, Chief.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right, next we will call up the Jessica Green, the Animal Control Director, for her end-of-year update. She's been real excited to get to come in front of us to do this. You've had a big year, so we're ready to hear about it.
Okay, so here's the animal shelter. We opened in July. Everybody knows that. This year, we hired a new kennel tech, Riley. He's 21, and my goal for him is to move him up to ACO2, maybe within the next 6 months. He's quickly learned. He's a big help. And Ansley, she's the kennel tech. She volunteered for the last 2 years. When she was in high school, I could never make her leave. She was there all the time, every day. And then you have Trina. She's the same way. She's a hard worker, very, very passionate about all of her animals. She insists to go on every single call. I can't get her to leave, so I'm very grateful for each of them. Here's our cat condos. We can house 23 cats. We had to double them, we can. We have 18 dog kennels and an outdoor run. Donations, this past year we received a ton of toys, treats, blankets, cleaning supplies, and food throughout the year. Numerous monetary donations as well. This year we had stock-ins on the kennels and asked for donations, and the amount of donations we received was crazy. So we're very, very thankful for that. Our volunteers, they come in and help bathe and clean the kennels, walk our animals, and they have playtime. A lot of them are high school students trying to get their hours for Key Club or National Honor Society. Then we have community service workers that'll get their hours as well. Boy Scouts, every year a Boy Scout comes to us. They need to, the local troop, they work to earn their badge. And this year they built 18 dog beds for us. Wow. The year before last, they all made blankets for us. So they're very involved. They visit about once a month, come in and check everything out and make sure to see if we need anything. Since we've opened the shelter, we have 2 trainers, Sit Means Sit and Canine Consultant. Canine Consultant is actually down the street. Both of them have been very successful helping us find homes for our animals. I've got 2 in training right now at the Canine Consultant and 1 with Sit Means Sit. And they donate their time. They take our animals. Canine Consultant will keep them until they're trained. Alan with Sit Means Sits, he'll come through the week and get them, work with them for a couple hours. Sometimes on the weekends, he'll take them to training and bring them back. So we're very, very grateful for them. They also offer 4 free training sessions if they get adopted. so they'll continue the training for them. We visit once a month at Wesley Meadows. We take a dog or two and kittens up there. The residents love it. They ask us to come back all the time. We spend several hours throughout a Saturday there just spending time with them, letting them visit. As you can see, they love it. They want to adopt all the animals if they could. Events, we do the farmers markets, a fair, Principal Toyota hold a big adoption day in the summer. Community support night with the high school. We did National Night Out, and of course Wesley Meadows. Our adoptions, reclaimed and transported. Last year we took in 161 animals. We adopted or transported or reclaimed 156 of those animals. Currently we have 2 animals left from 2022. One is in foster and one is in the shelter still. We actually do have somebody looking at her this week, so hopefully she'll be adopted. Heartworm treatments. The 501c3 covers the heartworm, Hearts for Hernando animal. We treated 6 dogs last year. Currently we have 4 and 3 more lined up to be treated this year as of now. Right now we have 16 dogs, 3 cats, 1 in isolation, and 2 in foster. We got accepted for the Science Diet program, so as of January 1st, all our animals are on Science Diet. We see a big improvement with their skin, their body, weight, their daily activities, getting down to the restroom. It's a good food, and we hope to continue staying on that. Our calls, we received 583 calls last year. We responded to 35 after hours. This year we've received 120 so far. We've responded to 6 after hour calls so far. Our plans for the year, I want to add a roof over the dog runs in the back, extend a play yard. We're working on a reading program for the young children to come in and read to the animals. I want to get all our kennel techs certified, so I want to get training for them. And we'll be more involved in the community with adoptions, fundraisers, community service worker, or community service, and within our schools. We get a lot of calls from the elementary school to see if we can come in and speak to their class about the importance of taking care of animals. So we plan on to do that. And our mission is to protect and advocate for all animals in Hernando through sheltering, adoption, education, spay, neutering, and community outreach. That's it.
Thank you, Jessica. I do want to add one thing that she didn't say. When Jessica used to be my assistant, I realized she was what some people call a clean freak. And you can go to that shelter at any moment, and I would tell you it's the cleanest shelter in the United States. But we're very proud of what you and your team accomplished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 14 is the court department. Judge, you got a couple of hard acts to follow.
I do, absolutely.
Hey there.
So Miss Cassie prepared the presentation for us. I'm going to thank her, give her credit when credit is due. She put together this slideshow. What I would like to do first is just thank you for giving us the opportunity to come before you and just review what we do in city court. I've had some of the staff here. I've got the prosecutor, Ms. Paige Williams, and Russell Jordan with me, and Judge Emerson are with me as well. I'm sure they might have some things to add to fill in the blanks at the end when I'm done with my presentation. And I also want to thank all of you for your support of the court department. You've always been open and receptive to our ideas and our suggestions and supportive of our needs. And before I get too far down the road and forget to thank you, I do want to thank you for all that support. It's recognized and it is appreciated. So what I would like to do initially is just kind of review what the court department does. I know that sounds a little simplistic, but a lot of times when you mention to people the court department, what they think about is the courtroom. That's all they think about, and there's a lot more to that. There's really 2 departments, in my opinion. You've got the court clerk's functions, which Ms. Cassie's going to talk about later. That falls under her bailiwick. She runs, for all intents and purposes, that department, maintaining the files, keeping everything in order, preparing the reports for the state. receipting in collections and maintaining those operations. And then you have the courtroom operations, which is really what you think of when you think of court. That's where people come in to address the charges that have been filed against them, your trials, your plea negotiations, your probation efforts. That's really where the judges and the prosecutors and the public defenders focus, so that's going to be the focus of my presentation. To review this year, where we are at now in terms of performance, Miss Cassie and I have been meeting usually twice a year for about the last 15 years to review throughout the year our performance, to kind of keep track of the case volume, keep track of things that we might be able to improve upon or change, take a look at maybe changes in case law that we have to address, things of that nature. And then after she and I meet, we'll get together with the rest of the staff to get their input of things that they might be able to improve upon or suggestions that they might be able to provide to us. And so we've got some numbers going back. There we go. Some numbers going back in terms of our performance to 2014. And there's really two prime factors that Cassie and I look at when it comes to performance. I mean, there's a lot of issues that we will review, but the driving factors of what happens in the courtroom is our case volume and our collections. And so case volume is going to drive our needs, our demands. Obviously, the more tickets that we have or the more cases that we have to handle, the more need or the increased need we have for staffing, supplies, time, things of that nature. And then the other factor being collections. Now, the court department, it's like the police department or the fire department. We're not a profit-making department. We're a public service. But there's an expense to running that department, and anytime you have an expense in a department, you got to look at the other side of the ledger and try to figure out how to pay those expenses. And so collections are important. Our case volume is driven by two different types of case load. Tickets, which is the citations that police officers write, your speeding tickets, your DUI tickets, your no insurance tickets. And then your arrest by way of warrants. And so if my neighbor trespasses on my property, I'm going to come down, swear out an affidavit, we're going to issue a warrant. So those are two different avenues by which a case gets to the court. So with respect to the traffic tickets, go back to the traffic tickets. You can see this year, 23-24 fiscal year, we've already processed 1,062 tickets. If you run that out for the remaining course of the fiscal year, it's going to be just under 3,200 tickets. But I will note that usually the summer months are busier than the other months. You've got kids that are out of school, a lot more activity, probably a few more barbecues and pool parties and things of that nature, and it just makes us busier. So I do think that our total number of tickets this year is probably be closer to 3,300. That's just a guess. That'd be about a 10% increase over last year. You can see 2021, 21, 22, the numbers were very, very low. Those were the COVID years. And I'm not saying COVID solved crime. It did not, but you had a lot less people driving. You had a lot of restrictions on the court department in terms of how many people we could have in the courtroom at any given time. And that just made things slower and the numbers were down. Prior to that, 16 through 19, you could see that the numbers were well over 4,000. That's when there was some discussion, a lot of discussion actually, about possibly adding another court date. To be honest with you, 4,000 tickets in a year was extremely difficult to manage and probably was not an effective use of the court's time. And by that I mean you start to rush. When you got that much volume going through the court, it's difficult to keep up. As far as arrests by warrant, year to date, we've processed 643. That would work out to be a little, well, right at 1,900 for the year if it continues at that pace. That's a pretty significant increase from prior years. I'm not certain why there's such an increase. Captain Ellis might have more information on why we're seeing more arrests by way of warrant, but I do think a lot of it's driven by drug charges. So typically, drug charges are brought by way of a warrant versus a traffic citation. If they stop someone for speeding, but then they see drugs in the vehicle, they're going to come down, police will take out an affidavit, will issue a warrant. So in my opinion, a lot of what we're seeing on the warrant side is through the drug-related charges. But we're also seeing a larger number of transient criminals, for lack of a better word, people passing down 269 are not from here, they get picked up. We might have to grab them for multiple charges, and some of that would be a combination of tickets, but also the arrest warrants. We're also seeing more felonies, and usually felonies are brought by way of an affidavit and a warrant versus a citation. So year to date, again, we're up in volume compared to the last 2 years. I said during the budget season that I didn't see a need to add another court date. I still don't. I don't think we'll see a need for a new court date next budget year, but come budget time, we'll have better numbers to work off of. There are a number of things that the staff and I are talking about to help manage this growth, which I'll go over in just a minute, that I think would allow us to get through another year without adding a court date. But again, as the numbers go up, at some point in time, we're going to be looking at other requirements. Steps that we have taken this year, some things that we have done this year. Oh, collections, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. On the collections, this year's budgeted number in terms of total collections, we estimated $400,000. We've currently collected $130,000 in court. When I'm using my numbers, I'm going to the number that goes to the court fund. You'll see that collections on the left-hand column for each year, that gets broken down to general fund, state payments, and then court fund. Now, Ms. Cassie can explain how all that gets broken down, but it gets broken down to those three primary categories. So the numbers I'm referring to is the court fund. We're currently at $130,000 in collections towards the court fund. The budgeted amount was $400,000. And if you run that out for the remainder of the year, that puts us right at $400,000 on budget. With the summer months, again, being busier than normal, that might bump up. Also, March and April, you typically see a large increase in your fine payments. That's because it's tax season. A lot of people come in and pay off their fines when they get their tax refunds. Prior years, 22, 23, the number was a little bit under budget, but that's because the ticket volume and the case volume was so much lower. 21, 22 was just an anomaly. That was just a hard year to project because the city had reached a number where they are able to run traffic interdiction on 269, but you had COVID going on, and it was just a very difficult year to pin down, so we're off a little bit. And then 2021 was an anomaly. You see a large sum in terms of collections, well over budget. And what that was, even though the ticket numbers were well down in 20 and 21, you had all that COVID stimulus money, all the supplemental checks people were getting. And I can tell you, we had a lot of people come in paying significant amounts of past due fines with that stimulus money. So those 2 years are the ordinary years. I think 23, 24 is more consistent what you could expect going forward. In terms of courtroom operations and some things that we have done this year already, every few years I will get together with the prosecutors and Ms. Cassie and Judge Emerson, and we'll look at our standard fines and assessments. We do so, one, to make sure we're current with the law, but two, we'll also look at trends in terms of the types of cases that we're seeing. And if we're seeing cases that are a problem, or if we're seeing a rise in something that we feel like we need to address, we might review the penalties and see if we need to be a little bit stronger, so to speak, on the penalties to try to deter that particular activity. A good example is the last year or two, we've seen a significant increase in speeding, particularly by young drivers. 18, 19, 20-year-olds who think it's a game, and I'm not joking because they get on social media and brag about how fast they're going, and they'll have competitions about how fast they can go. And so we are looking at options to, it's only so much you can do with fines on a speeding ticket, but other alternative sentencing that we might be able to do. The prosecutors came up with a great idea just a few months back that some of these younger drivers, we make them come and sit in court for 4 or 5 days in a row and write a report. And I can assure you, they would much rather have their parents come down here and write a check than sit in court for 4 days. You can see it on their face. They don't like it. I hope it's effective because it has gotten pretty bad here. We had a young gentleman last court date that was doing 60 miles an hour coming through the intersection of Commerce Street and 51. And we all know how bad that little corner is right there. So we went through and reviewed all of our standard fines and assessments from that perspective. We hosted another amnesty program. That is something the board inquired about this budget year. I first started doing amnesty in 2011. We did it for 3 or 4 years in a row, and over time, the response fell off. Word gets out on the street, hey, don't pay your fines, wait to amnesty and you get a better deal, or whatever they say. If they miss that amnesty program, if you're doing it every year, they just try to dodge the bullet as long as they can and come in the next amnesty period. So we got into a practice of just randomly selecting years for amnesty. We hadn't done it in a while. Again, we did it this year. We did everything we could to promote it, and we just had a bad turnout. I don't know why. We had very, very few people take advantage of the amnesty, and I just don't have an answer for that. So we'll review it again, see if there's any things we can do to make it better next time around, maybe wait another year or two. That hasn't been decided yet. We did a training with the police department. I think Hernando City Court is very lucky that we have a great working relationship with the police department. I always have. Every couple of years, we'll try to go through what we call a training, and that's where we meet with the police officers and review, again, courtroom activities, what we expect from them. The prosecutors will meet with them and tell them what they'd like to see in the reports to help them prepare for trials. We'll review with them how we'd like to see them testify and present a good case. The officers will speak to us and tell us things that we could do to help them. And the goal on both sides is just to be as effective and efficient as we possibly can be. And I'm not just saying this because the staff is here. I think we probably have one of the most efficient and effective municipal courts probably in the state. We get lawyers from all over the state that frequently compliment the staff and how quickly we can handle our cases. The public doesn't feel that way when they're sitting in the courtroom for 4 or 5 hours, but as far as a court is concerned, a municipal court, I think we have one of the most effective and efficient ones in the state, bar none. I really do. So we did that training with the police department. That's always helpful. And then just quickly note that earlier this year, Stacy Spriggs, who was a public defender, left, and you, with the recommendation of the court, appointed Billy Johnson, and he's been a great addition. He's a good lawyer. He works hard, and he's just a good fit, and I appreciate that appointment. The future, so as the court docket increases, as our caseload increases, one thing that we're talking about, and we hope we can get your support on this, rather than considering adding more court days, if we could, on the busy days, have a third prosecutor. So every court day, we have 2 prosecutors. But this past 2 weeks ago, the second week of January, we noticed that we had an extremely heavy court date. We brought in a third prosecutor. We finished court about 5:30 that day. We try to finish by 5 every day simply because you've got members of the public that are there all day, witnesses, you've got the defendants themselves, you've got police officers, just as a convenience to try to get it done by 5, because we do hear complaints, I know you do, court takes so long, we strive to get done by 5. So on that busy court date, we brought in the third prosecutor. It still took us to 5:30 to get done. I think as these days come up throughout the year, we try to look at the caseload. If we see a heavy day in advance, we would like to have your permission and authority to bring in that extra prosecutor. On that one day, I just signed an order like we do with the special public defenders. It was $350 for the day to have a prosecutor there. But if we could do that from time to time, it's going to help manage the caseload. We are in discussions of adding another court date in the sense of a trial date. We have court on Wednesdays, only on Wednesdays. Every other month, on the last Wednesday of the month, we have a trial date. We used to do trials at the end of the actual court day. So you get through all your cases for the day, and then you'd have 2 or 3 trials left. You just do them quickly at the end of the day. There's too much going on in the courtrooms to do that now. We've got lawyers. We typically, years ago, would average 2, 3, 4 lawyers at a time. Now we have 8 or 12 lawyers in a courtroom at any given point in time. Those trials take longer. The case volume, again, you have more trials. And it's just not possible for the prosecutors to properly prepare quickly at the end of the day. So a few years ago, we decided that every other month, the last Wednesday of the day, would be nothing but trials. Those trials are getting heavy. We might go to 8 trial days a month, 8 trial days a year. So when I say an extra trial date, I don't mean adding another day in the month, but just changing out some of our case balance and using more trial dates. Again, as I said, I don't think there's any need for additional court days just yet. And with the use of the extra prosecutors and the trial dates, I think we can work through probably the next 2 years with another trial day. And at some point in time, you're probably going to add another court day to the month or to the year, to the week, whatever the case may be. And then the last item is expanding the courtroom. The way the courtroom is set up now is the prosecutors sit immediately to the front and right of the judge, about 15 feet away. There's a lot of activity there. It gets loud. You got 2 prosecutors, you got 2 defendants, you got sometimes 2 lawyers, you got police officers. It gets very, very loud. It's hard to hear. The judges are frequently saying, please be quiet, but they can only be so quiet right there. The other problem as well is sometimes we as judges hear what they're talking about and we don't need to. If a matter goes to trial, we need to be completely independent. We need to be uninformed, so to speak, of what the facts of the case are. We don't need to be prejudiced by anything that we hear. So Judge Emerson and I try to distract ourselves and not hear what's going on, but sometimes it's hard. If there was a way to punch a door out behind the prosecutors, directly behind them is 2 offices used by the election commissioners. All it would take is a door going into one of those offices. By coincidence, there was a Board of Supervisors meeting today, and I met with Miss Sissy Ferguson. She did not see a problem with that at all. She said they're not there during the day. That is one office where they don't store anything. She didn't think there'd be an issue whatsoever if we punched a door through and just had use of that office on Wednesdays. That would allow the prosecutors to go into a separate room with the lawyers, with the defendants, with the police officers, and carry on the conversations without distracting from the rest of the court. So that's all I had to present to you. I've got Judge Emerson if he wants to add anything, or the prosecutors if they wish to add anything. I thought that, you know, you might want to hear from them, or just answer questions that you have for us.
I think Judge, I'm going to cover it.
Any questions from the board?
You promised you were going to say
I
something.
thought I would talk about the expansion.
Cassie, did you want to add something?
I have a couple of little things. I'll go
Okay.
very, very quickly.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
I just wanted to kind of give you a little history, because a lot of y'all are new. I don't know if y'all knew this. But this used to be our courtroom. And my office used to be like on the other side of that wall right there for when I very first started. So we shared this courtroom and the boardroom. Looked a whole lot different up here. But in 2008, in April, we moved over to the Gale Center. So April of this year, we've been at the Gale Center for 16 years. So we're outgrowing it very quickly. I've made a few changes just to the layout of our court files to help with our process, to move things a little faster, so they can get to the information faster. It is a little time consuming on our part, but it does help speed up during court processing, so they're not flipping through a bunch of papers. I've done some upgrades to one of our laptops, just to help with the process of checking people in during court, so they can get inside and get in the courtroom faster. And plus, things that I could work from home, like when we had all the ice and everything, that delayed us a whole lot. But now I can process it and I won't have to play catch up. Hopefully we won't have a lot of that ice. Last year, I had cameras installed throughout the court office and the lobby area and our little payment room, just for more protection and accountability. And also at the end of last year, I hired, it's not a new position, I filled the current position I had of a full-time clerk and my part-time clerk. And here's just some numbers to kind of piggyback off what Judge Nowak was saying. These are our court dates, like May 3rd, 10th, 17th. These numbers are the actual number of defendants that we had on our court docket, each court date. And those coincides with those number of tickets. You can see how, and where it says T and a slash, and then the number those are our trial dates. So May 31st, we had 33 trials that day with additional 38 defendants. It's a lot. This is the first quarter of this new budget year, January 10th. Y'all got phone calls about that one. There's 386 defendants. It's a lot. We got 41 trials on that trial day. And coming up, these are just the next few months. We've got 27 trials already scheduled for March with additional 41 people. Tomorrow, we have 228 people on our court docket. Mhm. Has anybody got any questions? Trying to give you a lot of numbers in a short period of time. I can't top what Judge Nowak just did.
Well, thank you, Cassie.
You're busy.
I just want to make a note overall. First of all, I appreciate everything the court department does for our city. I know it's a thankless job. Y'all are not the most well-liked people by the public, but we appreciate that you're taking care of us. And the police officers, I know, when they're making all of those arrests, want to make sure that they are prosecuted and handled properly. And I think that partnership is working well, and y'all are a good team together. And I want to thank the board for allowing me, as y'all can see, I hope the public sees it too, y'all have allowed me to hire professionals to run our departments in the city. It's very important, and I think that's part of what makes Hernando a great place. So thank y'all for all that you do.
Thank you.
Well, now we'll get back to business. Item 15 is requesting board approval for surplus equipment in the Parks Department and proceed with disposal or sale.
Motion.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 16 is to engage the Gerald Group for the fiscal year 23 audit with a fee not to exceed $25,500.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 17 is the approval of the 2024 EWP NRCS engineering agreement with Neil Schaefer for design and construction services. To be clear, this one is a bit of an anomaly. This was just one point in time where there was 100% money available. So there is no match for this one. So it got approved, and there are about 4 different places around town that needed ditches fixed that were part of this one that were approved. So we just need approval to enter into a contract with them for design and construction. Yeah, we'll probably never see 100% money again, but we'll take it while we can get it.
Motion approved.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 18, our local business that's been here a while, Tegra Medical, is asking for a personal property exemption in the amount of $2,967,683 worth of equipment purchased in 2023, and that will be a 5-year exemption. Is there someone here from Tegra to speak on that? Yes, would you please come up and just, you don't have to talk about the exemption. We got the stuff in front of us, but if you just come up and say a little bit about Tegra.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're proud to have y'all in town, and I just wanted everybody to know exactly what y'all are doing and what this expansion is.
Yeah, just first of all, thank you to being here. Real quick to myself, Milos Tici, I'm the general manager in Tegra Medical in Hernando. So as you hear, I'm not a native speaker in English, so I moved, I relocated 1 year ago with my family from Switzerland to Hernando. So now I'm a resident of Hernando. And I'm happy to be here. And as we know, Tegra Medical is a part of a larger SFS group, which is owned by a Swiss group. And first of all, we are producing here in Hernando, or we are contract manufacturer for medical devices. So we are producing for the local OEMs like customer like Medtronic, Smith & Nephew, all the largest known companies in Memphis area. And we employed around 100 employees. And to increase our competitiveness, we invested last year about $2.9 million in new equipment, which allows us to produce overnight, so fully automated equipment, CNC machinery. Our biggest challenge, I would say right now, is to get qualified employees. Maybe some of you noticed or recognized that we have banners outside of our company. We are hiring, so we are trying to find everywhere qualified employees, especially second shift or night shifts. Really hard to get them. But yeah, we appreciate the, to be here and willingness to continue to improve our productivity as well. We have a good forecast for this year as well for next year to continue to invest in new equipment to save all the places here in the town for
Good.
Tegra Medical. Yeah.
Any of y'all have any questions? Or any questions on the tax incentive? I haven't been in your building in about 10 years, so we'd probably like a tour again sometime if you have a chance.
Yes, of
We'd like
course.
to
We would
bring the
really
board in to
appreciate
see,
that, and
we'd
I
like to see
hear-
what you do.
Yeah, I heard already you have been in contact with David Hatton.
Yes.
Who is, yeah, we're happy to have you guys there.
Thank you.
And to show you all our improvements there.
Okay. Can I have a motion from the board on the incentive?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you for coming
Thank
to the
you very
meeting tonight.
Thank you.
Item 19. Is the chief here to come up and talk about item 19?
No.
Smoke, you going to talk about it? The approval to raise rates on ambulance charges effective March 1st to the same rates as the county and the surrounding cities. And basically, this would go up to what the insurance companies will pay. We certainly don't want to be running the ambulance. Our ambulances always run at a deficit. They don't pay for themselves, but we should at least be getting what the insurance companies will pay.
Yeah, basically it's self-explanatory. We're just trying to match the county, Alderman, Salhaven, and Horn Lake. Two of them already done it, and the other two, us and another city, just carrying it for the board. So we're just trying to play catch up with everybody else or keep up with them.
Are there any questions on that one? If not, is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
So a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Joe, would you like to come up and talk about the street paving list? Y'all remember we tabled it a couple of meetings ago and had asked Joe to look at another couple of streets, and he is back to talk to y'all about it, and hopefully we can make some decisions tonight on which ones we're proceeding forward with.
Okay. As the mayor said, I prepared another list there and projected cost of the different streets. You can see the first area there, there's some streets that were left over from last year. And then the next list or group there is what was presented to me here in the last couple of months. 3 streets were added. The 3 streets at the bottom down there were added since the last meeting. Kind of got an estimate there of what each street cost and how I estimated it is so many dollars per ton, so many dollars per foot on milling that we have to do.
There's one other street that came up just because the county was going to be doing some work. If y'all can picture Oak Bridge, it runs north off of Thousand Oaks, and probably a little over half of it's in the county. It's a very short street, and the next small half is in the city limits. And I was talking to Robert Jarman about that, the county road manager, and he said it might make sense for us, since they're going to be paving their section this year, that we might do an interlocal agreement where they just pave the whole thing and we pay them back for it. But that's something we might want to look at. Do you have a guess how much that little section would be that we need to hold back? Is that 10, 20?
Yeah, I wouldn't think over 10,000. It's not very long.
Okay. So y'all just keep that one in mind as we're going through. It might be a way we can get some economies of efficiencies of scale with the county.
What happened to our roundabout?
It's still on there. I left it off, didn't I?
But it's still in the top numbers. Yeah, it's still
Okay.
on.
Yeah, it's still in.
I just didn't see it. I have my list from the last time we discussed this that were
You
highlighted
just
that
didn't
had
add it
been.
back up there.
Is it in that total?
I was just seeing what was totaled in.
It's not in that total, but this, we still have 550 to get out of the bottom in unbudgeted money.
Oh, from the,
What money y'all haven't budgeted yet.
okay. Because you were going to start like doing the curb and all that stuff on that one before too long, when the weather got right, right? I mean, correct?
I've just about finished the plans.
Knowing that we've got about 550 to choose out of this list, does anybody have some comments or ideas on where y'all want to start on approvals?
Thank you for adding Summit Drive.
Yep, Sonnet.
That needed it.
That one got a lot worse during the ice.
It did, and it's,
There are a few that got a lot worse during the ice, but that one really did.
yeah, and plus the fact that when I brought it up, people will be cutting through there when that roundabout's being worked on at McInville and Holly Springs.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, because that people will cut through there temporarily.
Mayor, I only identified a few that I think either, maybe the timing's not right on, or, just a few ideas to potentially extend. I know the Mount Pleasant by Byhalia Road, little piece there, it's been patched and repatched, but, I know that's only 25K, but that might be somewhere to start potentially. Maybe we can have our crews look at that for another kind of piecing it together for a little bit longer. And then Sloan's Way and Olivia Drive, I think with the future construction of, with the Whataburger and traffic that's gonna be coming in and out of that area, I think it'd be best to wait until that construction's completed before we pave it and then have construction happen right in that area. And those three things together total about 125K, so that was just kinda off the top. When I thought stuff that could at least wait.
Yeah, I think when we started all this back in the fall, we had thought Whataburger would be further along than they are, but they are just now about to begin construction. So you're right, there could be a lot of construction traffic on that road.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd
it's-
like to leave that Mount Pleasant Byhalia Road on there if we can. I mean, that's probably one of the most traveled streets.
Yes, the spots we need to fix.
Yeah.
Yep. And Olivia Drive, if you've driven down it since the ice, I mean, it's coming apart.
Joe, does anybody else have any comments? I was gonna,
Well, so,
I've got one project on here for Ward 6, so I would just ask that my one project doesn't get deleted. If we
which
could-
one is
Which one
it?
is
That's
that?
the Notting Hill Loop, Notting Hill Drive. I mean, that's the one I've got, so I would like to keep it. If everybody can do me that indulgence, please. I'd like to see that one through, so it would be done. And I guess the Oak Bridge one, I guess will too, but that's a smaller deal, so I know everybody's got roads that need to be paved, but
And that'd take care of Notting Hill completely, right?
yeah, that's correct. And, I mean, the last time they were paved was probably Brian Hill doing it when he finished developing the neighborhood, so.
Alderman Lynch, were you about to say something?
oh, well, so we want to just take 30% of this list for this year.
Right.
Okay.
How about the group at the top? Fairway Oaks is one we were going to do, but we're waiting on to fix some of the leaks.
We haven't started fixing those leaks yet.
We gotta spec all that out and send it to bid.
Okay, so we're waiting on that.
When do you think we'll get that done?
I would say at the most a couple months in order to, I can't speak for the contractor when they would start work, but I think that we could safely have it bid out by then, hopefully, as far as publishing dates and stuff like that.
So it could be, if we're gonna be fixing those water lines and not certain we're gonna get to this paving before September 1st, this one could shift to the first section of paving in the next budget year, which would happen in the fall. Is that what you were suggesting, Joe?
That's fine.
That's in your ward, Bruce. What-
Yeah, I mean, that road's bad and then the leaks are terrible. Before we do pave it, we do need to get the leaks fixed. But, yeah, I mean, if we move it to September, as long as it's the first one on the list to get done, I'm fine with it.
So that means now we have 645,000 out of this bottom list we can work on.
You guys have promised we can do Terra Drive, the 335, and the DeSoto Avenue next year. If we can take those off, but I mean, those are in pretty bad shape, but those are pretty expensive also. They're pretty good distance, but, you know, not so much money to use, but.
Yeah, I think the Weatherby it can go to the next year too if it doesn't come off the list, if it just moves forward. I think that's okay. They're in need, but they're not torn up. They're just split, so.
And as y'all were talking about these, it brought something to mind. We did have a meeting with an engineering company that can provide the service, Civil Link, of ranking the roads and doing all the inspections and things y'all had asked for. And probably as soon as the next board meeting, we may be bringing that to y'all for a recommendation. So then they could rank all the roads, they would be on a list that everybody would approve. And we wouldn't have all this consternation. We would have, you know, just have it done basically in a scientific manner.
Yeah, and I just want to note on the Fairway Oaks, this will be the second budget year that we pushed it away.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
would be going on its third year.
What about Magnolia Drive? As we try to do the roundabout on 51, people are going to be traveling on that street probably.
We should probably leave that one on there, shouldn't we? It did sound like in the pre-construction meeting we had this morning on the 51 and Oak Grove roundabout that they weren't planning on moving traffic to side streets very much at all.
No.
That's what I heard, is they'll, you know, just shut one side and run them through and then move to the other side.
Right. They have a plan to pretty well keep it open, except I think it's 1 week or something that
Right.
they would have a problem.
So if we take Fairway Oaks and move it to next year, the two Terras and move them to next year, Weatherby and move them to next year, can somebody do the quick math on the ones that are left on there?
Which ones?
Probably about 850.
We're still at 850.
Well, hang on, we're a little over 2 million.
What about the roundabout?
The roundabout was already included in the upper part. Yeah, it's up there.
Are we waiting on Memphis Street?
No. We're not
Okay,
waiting.
that's still,
Yeah, I don't think so. That one's got to stay up
Yeah,
there.
that one
Okay.
needs to stay.
Sure.
Yes, I'm sure on that.
okay.
Taking about 750 off there, so give or take.
So we're down to 750. We need to take about another 100 off. We're good to go.
Did you say we're going to take Olivia and Sloan's off for now? Is that,
We were
Park
delaying
start adding
them.
up?
Are we delaying those to next year? I mean, next budget year? Not next year, but later this year?
I
Is that
mean,
what we said?
That's what I was
I
thinking.
think,
That's 95K right there, so.
Delay till, Whataburger's completed?
yeah, which will definitely, I mean, I would
I know it's
say,
chewed up.
So let me tell y'all what I think I'm hearing. I'm going to circle a couple here. So what I'm hearing is we put Fairway Oaks off till after we get the leaks patched, and it'll be in the first blush of next year. Then we'll do both the Terra ones in next year's budget. We will do the Olivia and Sloan's in next year's budget, and we will do Weatherby in next year's budget. The ones that we're leaving on the list for this year are Sweetbriar, the two Starkville Street pieces, Tanner Cove, Hillvale, DeSoto Avenue, West Street south of Robinson, Crenshaw Cove, Nicholas Cove, East Street from Commerce to Northview, the Mount Pleasant by Hilia, the Notting Hill Loop and Notting Hill Drive, Summit, and Southern Street.
It's about 840,000 that's been put to next year.
Okay.
So that's
Everybody-
that's a considerable amount
That's a considerable amount.
going into next year.
I think
already.
everybody's done a little give and take.
Yeah.
So those things that I just read off and have circled here, is there a motion to include those streets in this budget year and have Joe Frank work on going out to bids and/or quotes for those?
Make that motion, but first, we had discussed, I think, there was some issue with that lottery, or infrastructure, when the city had to put up a certain amount or something. Did we get that clarified?
Yes, so we may need to shift, that's going to be something Pam and I are going to have to work on. So everybody knows what we're talking about. There's a formula for the Mississippi Modernization Act money that we get every year. It was passed by the legislature, and the governor threw in a little caveat that we have to spend the same amount of money out of our street budget as we have been, or else it knocks us down on the amount of Modernization Act money we get next year. So we may need to do a little budget shifting and spend these monies out of the general fund to a higher degree than out of the Modernization Act. But we'll have those monies because we had budgeted to do the McInville overlay, which we're not going to be able to do in this budget year. It'll have to go to next year. So we may come back to y'all with a budget amendment to shift these. Thank you for bringing that up, Alderman Wicker.
Second the motion from Alderman Wicker.
There's a motion from Alderman Wicker, a second by Alderman Piper. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and that motion passes.
Okay.
Handing that list to the clerk. I'll interpret my hen scratch later. Can I have a motion on item 21, the utility adjustments?
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. We deleted item 22. Item 23. Austin, would you like to come up?
Yes, sir. We do have 3 public hearings scheduled tonight. For matter of convenience, we do have 2 items that are requested to table. The first of which would be the Crestview rezoning. The applicant was denied at the Planning Commission and wants some more time to meet with the surrounding neighbors, and so he's deferred his request until April 16th to reshape his application. And so that's PL 1785, the Crestview rezoning, has requested to go until April 16th. And then in the course of tonight's meeting, Mr. John Lovell's made a request to table his item until the next meeting at Edelman Robinson PD. So I know there's some folks here to hear about that tonight, so I thought I would make that announcement before we get started.
Okay. So we'll be hearing item 23, PL 1782, and then the board will need to make motions to table the next 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
PL 1782 is a request at Getwell and Hollow Springs Road to amend the zoning map from A to C4 plan commercial. Shane King with Houston Engineering is representing the owner of the property. And his request is the rezoning and preliminary development plan approval on 2 acres from A to C4, and the description of that parcels in your staff report. The future development plan identifies this parcel as master plan residential. I provided a full context of what that means in our general development plan in your staff report. This application was originally tabled at the January Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Darby was there as a concerned citizen and wanted to meet with the applicant to come up with some proposed changes. And then it came back at the last Planning Commission meeting in February with a revised set of permitted uses and an amended landscape plan. And that's in your staff report, and I'll explain that here a little bit of what those meant. For a zoning amendment, the 3 criteria for approval or denial is how this proposed amendment conforms to the general development plan, why this existing zoning district classification is improper or inappropriate, and what changes in the area, economic, physical, and social, have occurred that were not anticipated by the general development plan and have substantially altered the basic character of the area that makes this request appropriate. And as I mentioned, this is a request to go 2 acres from agricultural zoning to C4 planned commercial. The primary intended use is a convenience store. And so, as you all know, we changed all of our commercial zonings of base zoning districts to allow a convenience store only by conditional use. And so their proposal tonight is very similar to a PUD. It's a C4 planned commercial. So what that means is the applicant requests uses. And so they've requested their convenience store to be by right, to kind of take care of it all tonight rather than having a second request after this. It does have access to city water and sewer via the Gilbreth subdivision, which was approved in the last 2 years and has brought sewer to the site, which has made this available for development. If approved, the next step would be all engineering and plat procedures to include all road improvements as dictated by the subdivision regs. This was heard by the Planning Commission, as I mentioned, and recommended for approval for you tonight. A little bit about the outline plan. The general plan of the architecture and permitted uses is something that would have to be followed throughout the course of certificate of development. And so, as you see, the orientation of the building, the pumps are in the rear. There's a pitched roof on top of the canopy, and the pitched roof on a 612 pitch is intended to match the garden center next door. And so that's what they've modeled their architecture off of to kind of blend in. The original application did model the uses after the C1 neighborhood commercial. After meeting with some of the neighbors in the area, they've revised that list down to 18 uses, which you see on the 8th or 9th page of your staff report. And so any uses on the proposed center would have to be one of these 18. Nothing else would be allowed. And as I mentioned, the primary focus is the convenience store with the pumps. All the bulk requirements you see in your staff report are pretty standard. The setbacks, buffer yards, and lot coverage are pretty standard with other applications we've seen. And the landscape plan, the proposed landscape plan, as I mentioned, was amended to incorporate some different species, but a lot of those details would be caught during certificate of development. But this document would be our base standard for architecture, landscaping, and site requirements. But all other design regulations would have to be followed. I did propose a motion to approve or deny in your staff report to give you guys some guidance. And Mr. Shane King with Houston Engineering is here tonight if you have any questions.
Austin, you may not know the exact number, but how many gas stations have we approved since you've been with the city now?
Administratively or through the board level?
Through the board, since we've been on the board, since you've been here, I guess, was it around Christmas time of 21 maybe? Seems like a lot, is what I'm saying.
So a lot of them were in process when I started. So we've got the 2 at Pleasant Hill. We had the one on Highway 51 that's under construction now, and North Parkway and Holly Springs were all kind of which under construction when I started. And so I think the way the board's position was, it was too many happenings close together. And so the additional layer of conditional use, y'all wanted just to have another set of eyes on it, basically, not make it by right. And so what they proposed here is C4. So as I mentioned, there's no conditional use, but I guess this is that layer of review they're asking for.
Like a way to get around what we were trying to do, I think, to slow it down.
Sure, yeah.
What is included in financial services?
A bank. Check cashing was I think what everyone was worried about, and that's a separate definition.
Okay, so really just banking.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions for Austin? If not, would the developer like to speak?
Austin did a great job.
Okay, sure.
Everything else I don't think so.
Is there anyone else here to speak on this topic? Okay, if not, is there a motion? Is there a motion? there a motion from anyone on the board to approve or deny?
Austin, what was the vote from the planning commission?
Unanimous.
To approve the rezone, right?
Is there one? Okay, there was one against, but
Commissioner Max.
I honestly don't remember off the top of my head who it was, but Chris said I don't think they're done yet, but it was one against.
So there's no one here to speak against it.
No one's speaking for or against it.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve the rezoning request by Shane King with Houston Engineering, representing the owner of the property for rezoning the preliminary development plan for 2 acres from A to C4 planned commercial. The subject property is located on the south side of Holly Springs Road, west of Getwell Road, section 21, township 3, range 7, based upon the following findings, 1 through 3.
Is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion? Hearing no second, that motion dies. Is there another motion?
Mayor, I motion that we table a decision on this for the entire board to be here at a later date.
What date would we want to table it until?
The next, let's do, was it March the 5th? March 5th?
There's a motion to table this item till March 5th to get a full board here. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion is tabled till March 5th. All right, item 24, Austin said this one has asked to table until April 16th. Is there a motion on that?
Motion to table.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Austin, you said item 25 has to be tabled. Do you know until which date?
I'm going to defer to the applicant, I don't know.
Okay.
Motion to table.
Second.
Yes, we could, the items on the agenda, we could, I think we could, I think we could hear it. So there's a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll withdraw my motion.
All right, so withdrawal of the motion. Anyone here to speak on the item? Could come forward.
Did you want me to present the case first, or I just know the direction?
Well, it's been tabled at the request of the applicant, so I think, and it will be heard again, so I'm not.
Already been heard one
Yeah,
time.
I'm not saying don't come speak, I'm just saying it's going to be heard again, and the whole board will be here to hear it and vote possibly, so, but you are welcome to come speak.
So it's tabled regardless?
Well, the board has to vote to table it, so it's not regardless yet, so if you would like to come up and speak, come on.
I don't want to waste anybody's
Yeah.
time, but this is our third time to come before you all. So I'm Amy Brown, I live at 480 West Commerce Street. I came to the Planning Commission, which denied the motion, which is a motion to rezone. It's not complicated. He has use of this. It's not about whether we like Mr. Lovell. I like John. It's not about whether the design presentation looks good. It obviously looks good. Whether it's 3 or 2, that's not what we're here about. It's also not whether he's a great landlord. He's a fine landlord. He has other rental properties in our neighborhood. It is about spot zoning. It is about having a piece of property for 16 years that's been zoned residential. And as Austin previously just stated in another application, you have to show certain facts that have changed in the neighborhood and the use that he could not use this property the way that it's already zoned. It's zoned residential. To change it to multifamily or PUD would really be a regression in zoning. The neighborhood is not changing. In fact, there's single-family homes being built just across the street on Timber Lane and, of course, all around the neighborhood, which borders the historic district. So to change the zoning, it's not complicated. It needs to stay residential.
And to do so would be to set a really bad precedent for someone who's had property for a number of years that's zoned for a proper use and has not made any showing of a change in circumstances that would justify a change in zoning. So we can come again. I just don't think that it should be tabled at this time because this is the third time that we've come before the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone else want to speak? If not, is there a motion from the board?
A motion to table until March 5th meeting.
Second.
Is that the spring break? I'm sorry.
No, ma'am.
April or March?
March 5th. March
Next,
5th.
the next week after will be spring break.
There's a motion and a second to table this item till March 5th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, I need a motion to go into closed session to determine going into executive session regarding potential litigation on SXP right-of-way improvements and an interlocal agreement with the county.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. We are now in closed session.